and she is here to kick off our Monday relationship chats. This is your feel-good breakfast show, Expresso. And Mondays, we mean all things love and relationships. Now, for all of the great things we say about being honest, that it's, we always say it's the best policy, or that the truth shall set us free. Research, however, tells us that we aren't that great at it. Now, according to a recent study, a startling 1 in 5 of our interactions is a lie. Now, these lies aren't only to strangers or acquaintances in our lives. Couples deceive each other all the time. Now, let's hear what some of you have to say about honesty out on the streets.
I rank honesty very high in a relationship. It's one of my deal breakers, I would say.
I rank honesty really high in my relationships, like 10, 100.
And I think honesty is like the foundation of every relationship. Without honesty, then you can't build up the walls of the relationship.
I think it's the most important thing, because if you're not honest with your partner, there is no future.
I rank honesty in about an 8 out of 10 in relationships.
Or 11 out of 10. For me, honesty is the most important thing that you need in a relationship, because you need to be transparent and on the same page with your partner at all times.
It is absolutely important to tell your partner everything, because at the end of the day, eventually those lies do catch up to you.
I think it's important to tell your partner nearly absolutely everything, because you need to leave a couple of surprises in there, but good surprises. There's nothing wrong with that.
Ooh, some interesting opinions, and it's always so great to hear what you have to say. But today we will unpack the importance of honesty and its place in our relationships with clinical psychologist Lindile Mbata. And she is back on your Feel Good Breakfast show. Now, valuing honesty is something we all want and crave in relationships. Yet, dishonesty is there, and it can cause so much strain in a relationship. Slee, please put us out of our misery. Why is that always the case?
Right. Well, Zoe, dishonesty tends to set off a whole chain of events. There's a lot of unintended consequences that can come as a result of one being dishonest with their partner. So this is both for the person who has been dishonest and for the person who's also the recipient, of the deception. If you think about it, all of us, if you have to keep a secret or you haven't been honest, it feels a little bit uncomfortable when you're around the person that you've lied to.
Yeah.
So the person who's been dishonest can start feeling a little bit anxious around their partner, a little bit cagey. Their behavior can start to change a little bit. And for the partner, they might notice some of those things as well. And maybe they can feel a little bit paranoid about the state of the relationship or question what's going on with their partner. So really, the dishonesty can start to set off a chain of events between the two people, even if it's not completely actually spoken.
And that's also so dangerous, the ripple effect and that snowball effect that it does cause. Now, in your counseling experience, I wanted to know from you, what are some of the primary reasons that people tend to be dishonest with their partners? Why are they hiding the truth?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you spoke about the research into why people are dishonest, how often people are dishonest. And if I can just speak to that, what we do know from the research is that there is usually quite a rationalization of the reasons for one being dishonest. And usually it's this rationale that I'm protecting something. So it's either that I'm protecting myself, possibly, from some consequence. I'm protecting my partner from hurt, from harm. I'm protecting the relationship, and making sure that it doesn't break down in any way. But the reasons why people are dishonest or lie can be so multiple. People can be avoidant of conflict, for example. People can be avoiding certain other consequences from happening that they foresee. Sometimes people also aren't honest because they are overcompensating for something, or they want to look good to their partner. And also one of the major reasons that people aren't always honest is to just avoid shame and embarrassment when they have to actually face the truth.
And that's difficult, because I think sometimes we're not even honest with ourselves, or at least I know for a fact that's the case for me. But can lying or withholding the truth really be helpful in a relationship?
Right, so I think this is where it gets tricky. Because at times, I mean, there is such a thing as a sort of a pro-social lie. You know, the things that we do when we lie to sort of make our partners feel better, boost their self-esteem. You don't want to make someone sort of, you can see that they're vulnerable or they feel a bit insecure, and you don't want to play into that. So yes, you might lie about how a person looks in their jeans or, you know, if they've put on a little bit of weight. But I think in general, dishonesty is not a helpful thing, especially if the stakes are that the relationship could break down. But of course, you know, you may lie for the protection of another person. That's sort of a pro-social lie. About small things, like you do like a gift that you received, even if you're not into stripes or polka dots. But yeah, I think in terms of big lies that could jeopardize the relationship, it's just generally not a good idea.
Yeah. And what should you do in the event that, you know, something happens in your relationship and you've now told the lie and it's time to confess?
Yeah, I think you can think very much about how you're going to do it, but you want to do it as soon as possible and rather preempt the conversation than wait to get caught or wait for your partner to pick up that something is not okay.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people hope that their partner might say something or might not even say anything really, but you hope maybe there's going to be a moment where you get to say something. So rather create the ideal time to talk about it rather than wait for it to happen.
Okay, I like that advice. Lindile is not going anywhere. We are talking all things relationships on your Feel Good Breakfast show this Monday morning.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast show.
Lindile Mbata, she is back on your Feel Good Breakfast show as we talk relationships. And you know what? It is a Feel Good Breakfast show, but every now and then when we talk relationships, especially today's topic, which is all about honesty or the lack thereof, it is sometimes difficult. Now, Lindile is here to help us unpack these difficult situations in our relationships. And I'm just going to dive straight into it. I mean, we spoke about, you know, lying there was a specific term you used for a pro-social cause. But when does become, you know, some people are prone to lying more than others, but when does it become a compulsive disorder?
So the term compulsive really refers to something that one cannot help but do. And when lying becomes compulsive, it's really when you can see that a person lies often. It becomes a consistent sort of behavior.
Okay.
And really it can be quite dysfunctional because sometimes there's no discernible reason, there's no particular motive, but it's become a pattern of behavior and how the person interacts is that they just lie, they exaggerate facts. And it can become very destructive because you can imagine sometimes people lie to manipulate or they just lie to exaggerate details of their day just to say they had a better day than they had. So really when it becomes compulsive is if it's problematic and there's a difficulty in being able to distinguish between reality and what is a fantasy.
Okay. And does the fact that, you know, maybe your partner is being honest with you and you have these big responses or you are very frank to, you know, the things they tell you, does that then also perhaps stop or prevent your partner from being completely honest, like our responses to their honesty?
Yeah, well, you know, I think we should be very careful not to blame people's reactions for what it is we choose and not choose to say to them. So yes, definitely a person's responses to their partner can influence the partner's willingness to share. You know, if attempts at honesty are being met with hostility, if they're being met with rage or dismissiveness and a person feels shut down, then they won't be encouraged always to share the truth. So I think it's very important, and the onus is on each partner to be very cognizant of how they receive the other person when they come to them with something that actually is very uncomfortable or difficult for them to share.
I love that you say it's important to encourage truthness. Now, would approaching your partner and, you know, and I think this goes for more than just your romantic partner, but your someone at work or someone close to you, is approaching them head on about their lies the best way to encourage truthfulness?
Yeah, oof. Well, this can be quite tricky, right? I think encouraging is really the best way to encourage somebody. You can leave the floor open to share something and discuss something with them, and just, if you need to tell me something, please do. But, coming at a person with files of, this is what I know, and this, what do you need to tell me something? I think it will depend on the approach of the confrontation as well. So the approach can actually discourage, truth-telling, but sometimes if it is done in a certain way, it can be encouraging. But I really think at the end of the day, it's up to the person whether they're going to tell you the truth or not. Some people's policy is to deny, and there's nothing we can do about that.
Oh, and that is a terrible policy. Slindile is not going anywhere. I have one more question because I also want to know, what happens if you can't handle the truth? She's not going anywhere as we're going to continue this conversation on your Feel Good Breakfast Show.
It's my Feel Good Breakfast Show.
There are just a few minutes left of your Feel Good Breakfast Show, and we are continuing our conversation. It's Monday, and we're talking love and relationships. And today we are talking to clinical psychologist Slindile Mbata, who's standing by with some more vital tips on encouraging truth and transparency within our relationships. But first, let's hear what our viewers on the streets have to say about dishonesty.
I don't think I've ever dated a compulsive liar, as far as I know.
I have dated a compulsive liar before, and it was terrible, actually. One of the worst experiences ever in my life.
I've never dated a compulsive liar. Or maybe I did and I just didn't know about it, but I don't think I did. I'm sure I didn't.
How I deal with someone that's not transparent with me is sit them down and have a conversation. We talk about it and, be clear with your expectations.
I discover that friends are not honest or not transparent to me. I will probably end the relationship.
For me, signs of an unfaithful or untruthful partner is sudden change in behavior. I think there's a hint of jealousy that comes into there as well.
Some of the signs that I've experienced with an untruthful partner is somebody who says something and then the next day they say something different, and there's no consistency between the two things that they're trying to say. So it's easy to catch them out on their lies.
Consistency and transparency. Slindile, do we really have to be honest with our partners and tell them everything? Are we not entitled to, secrets of our own or privacy per se?
I think, being in a relationship doesn't mean you have to give absolutely everything, say absolutely everything. We're all entitled to some level of privacy, So I think sometimes, for instance, conversations that we have with our friends, conversations we've had with family members, conversations with our therapist, that is up to us to decide whether we will share it with our partner. And I think we have to also remember that just because you're in a relationship with someone doesn't mean that they belong to you, They don't have to tell you everything. They've chosen to be with you. And it really is a privilege to get to know things that they want to share.
And I love the way you say that. Now, I know that before we ended our last conversation, I asked you, is it possible to, really is it possible to not be able to handle the truth that your partner is about to give to you? How can we prepare ourselves to hear the things we might not be ready to hear?
Yeah, I think it's very possible. Some people can get quite defensive when, their partners have something to say and it's truthful because it might feel like it's actually quite hurtful to them. So I think the way that we can prepare ourselves is really to go into a conversation with your partner being very aware of how it is that you listen. So do you listen in a way where you're ready to catch somebody out for something that they've said? Do you listen in a way where you react emotionally to something that is being said to you? So if you go into a conversation and you say, all right, I'm here so that I can understand where you are coming from and that I can be understood. And really, I have an intention to come out of this conversation better than when I went in. That's really the intention. I think setting that tone for the conversation can make you much more receptive to what's being said.
And I think it encourages that room for transparency, which I think is very important.
Absolutely.
Now, before we end this off, is it possible that we could be sharing too much with our partners?
Yeah, I think sometimes it is possible. You know, if you find yourself, I think, feeling very compelled to give excessive details about your day, your whereabouts, your conversations, there could be an element of the relationship that is possibly unhealthy. So it's okay to share and to share many details. We know that sharing, in fact, encourages intimacy in the relationship when we're vulnerable, when we give, you know, our partner insight into who we are in our day. But really, if you are starting to feel compelled to give your partner absolutely everything because you're really anxious or nervous, what will happen if I don't, then perhaps there's something that's not quite right about that. Yeah.
And some passing advice, how can we encourage transparency within our relationships?
Yeah, I think though it can be difficult, I think the one important thing to do is possibly just let go of what you anticipate to be the outcome when you are sharing something with your partner. So if you think that, oh my goodness, if I share, this will happen, you know, there will be that consequence, then it might make you less willing to share. But if you go in thinking, okay, well, if you say something and you're honest, something's going to happen. If you don't say anything, something also might happen. But you just go in willing to share, and you'll take the consequence. No matter what happens, you're willing to take the consequence. I think just having that open mind is very helpful.
Thank you for that parting device. Lindile Mbata with you on your Feel Good Breakfast Show, dropping all of the truth bombs and really just sharing great ways on how we can be more transparent and honest in our everyday life.